Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Sarah who had been suffering from a mysterious ailment for as long as she could remember. She had been in and out of hospitals, undergoing countless tests and treatments, but her symptoms refused to subside. It wasn't until she met a stranger, a priest who was struggling with his own demons, that she finally found the help she needed. Sarah was a shy and introverted girl, and she had always been uncomfortable around other people. She spent most of her time at home, reading books and trying to avoid the outside world. But despite her withdrawn nature, she was still plagued by intense, unexplained pain in her stomach. The doctors had told her that it was all in her head, but she knew that something was very wrong. One day, while wandering through a nearby park, Sarah stumbled upon a group of people gathered around a man dressed in a priestly robe. He was speaking to the crowd in a calm, soothing voice, and for some reason, it felt like he was speaking directly to her. As she approached the group, she noticed that the man's eyes were fixated on her, and she felt a strange, inexplicable connection to him. Despite her initial trepidation, Sarah found herself drawn to the priest. He was unlike anyone she had ever met before, and she felt a deep sense of empathy and understanding towards him. She began to open up to him, telling him about her symptoms and her struggles with her health. The priest listened patiently, nodding his head as she spoke. When she had finished, he reached out and gently touched her on the arm. "My child," he said, "I know what you're going through. I've been there myself." Sarah was taken aback. She had never heard a priest speak of such things before, and she couldn't believe that someone who was supposed to be so pure and holy could have struggled with the same issues that she was. As they continued to talk, Sarah began to feel a sense of relief wash over her. The priest's words seemed to soothe her pain, and she felt like she was finally being heard. For the first time in years, she felt as though she had found someone who truly understood her. Over the next few weeks, Sarah continued to meet with the priest, and their friendship grew stronger with each passing day. He taught her about the power of faith and the importance of believing in something greater than herself. He encouraged her to trust in the healing process and to have faith that she would be cured. As Sarah began to take the priest's words to heart, she started to see a change in herself. She felt more confident and more hopeful, and her stomach pain began to subside. She started to attend Mass more frequently, and she found solace in the rituals and traditions of the Catholic Church. But despite her progress, Sarah still couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to her illness than met the eye. She couldn't help but wonder if there was a deeper, more sinister cause to her symptoms. It was then that the priest revealed to her his own struggles with hypersexuality. He told her that he had been struggling with these feelings for as long as he could remember, and that he had tried countless times to suppress them, to no avail. Sarah was shocked by the priest's confession, and she couldn't help but wonder how someone who was supposed to be a role model for others could struggle with such a taboo subject. But as the priest continued to speak, she began to see a pattern emerging. He told her about how his hypersexuality had been fueled by his own feelings of guilt and shame, and how he had turned to alcohol and other vices to cope with his struggles. He spoke about how he had tried to seek help from other priests, but had been met with judgment and rejection. As Sarah listened to the priest's story, she began to realize that there was a connection between his struggles and her own. She saw how her own feelings of guilt and shame had been compounded by her pain, and how she had turned to various coping mechanisms to try and alleviate her symptoms. With this newfound understanding, Sarah began to see the priest in a different light. She saw him not as a flawed human being, but as a man who was struggling just like she was. And in that moment, she felt a deep sense of empathy and compassion towards him. As the two of them continued to meet and talk, they began to form a deep, meaningful bond. The priest's support and encouragement gave Sarah the strength to face her own struggles head-on, and she began to see progress in her own healing journey. She started to attend therapy sessions and support groups, and she began to open up to others about her illness. As she shared her story with others, she found that she wasn't alone. There were many others who were struggling with similar symptoms, and she found comfort in knowing that she wasn't the only one. With the encouragement of the priest and the support of her newfound community, Sarah began to see a significant improvement in her health. Her stomach pain subsided, and she was able to live her life without the constant burden of her illness. As she looked back on her journey, Sarah couldn't help but feel grateful for the chance encounter that had brought her to the priest. She saw how his own struggles had given her the strength to face her own, and she felt a deep sense of gratitude towards him. But despite her progress, Sarah knew that her journey was far from over. She still had to deal with the lingering guilt and shame that had fueled her hypersexuality, and she knew that it would be a long and difficult road. But as she looked towards the future, she saw the priest by her side, supporting her every step of the way, and she knew that she had the strength and the faith to overcome any obstacle that came her way. In the end, Sarah's journey was one of self-discovery and healing. She learned that it was okay to struggle, and that it was okay to seek help from others. And she learned that sometimes, the greatest help can come from the most unexpected places. As she stood there, surrounded by the people who had helped her along the way, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace and contentment. She had faced her struggles head-on, and she had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before.
Please subscribe to my channel Lessons of Life and press the bell notification icon.